right, folks, let's dive right into this one, because you're not going to believe where this story goes. But before we start, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or town in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories reach. All right, y'all, I've been holding this in for way too long and I don't even know how to process it anymore. This is the kind of stuff you'd see on some trashy TV show, but nope, it's my actual life. So, here it goes. For some context, I, 32M, live in Austin, Texas. I've been married to my wife, Sarah, 29F, for 6 years. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, hit it off, and honestly, I thought we had the perfect life. We bought this cute little house in the suburbs, adopted a dog, shout out to my boy Max, and everything seemed normal. Keyword, seemed. A couple of months ago, Sarah started acting off. She'd always been this super bubbly, affectionate person, but suddenly she was glued to her phone, laughing at texts and being all secretive. When I asked her about it, she said it was just work stuff and that I was being paranoid. Well, spoiler alert, I wasn't. Fast forward a few weeks and she drops the bomb on me. She's pregnant. Now, you'd think this would be happy news, right? Like I should have been over the moon. But instead, something didn't sit right with me. The timing was weird, considering we hadn't exactly been, active lately. But I brushed it off because, well, who wants to doubt their own wife? Then came the family dinner. Oh, man, this is where everything exploded. My dad, 57M, was there, cracking his usual lame jokes, and Sarah was laughing just a little too hard, like full-on giggling. At one point, she got up to grab something from the kitchen, and my dad followed her. I didn't think much of it at the time, until they were gone for way too long. So I got up to check on them, and guess what I walked in on? My dad and my wife, standing way too close, whispering about something. They froze when they saw me, and Sarah practically jumped away from him like she'd been caught stealing. I asked what was going on, and they both mumbled some nonsense about talking about the baby. Y'all, I didn't buy it for a second. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the way they were acting just wouldn't leave my head. So I did what any suspicious husband would do. I snooped. I know. Not my proudest moment, but I had to. I went through Sarah's phone while she was in the shower, and let me tell you, my heart shattered into a million pieces. There were texts between her and my dad. My dad. Stuff like, I can't wait to see you again, and what are we going to do about the baby? The baby. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. My dad, the man who raised me, the guy I looked up to, was the father of my wife's child. I confronted Sarah that night. I held up her phone and said, "Care to explain this?" She turned white as a sheet and just started sobbing. She kept saying, "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." Like, what does that even mean? You didn't mean to sleep with my dad? You didn't mean to get pregnant with his child? She finally admitted that the affair had been going on for almost a year. A year. She said it started when my dad came over to help fix our garage door. Apparently, one thing led to another, and, well, you get the picture. I asked her why, and she said, "He made me feel special. You've been so busy with work lately, and I felt invisible." Y'all, my blood was boiling. I said, "So your solution was to hook up with my father? The man who held me when I was a baby?" I couldn't even look at her. I packed a bag and left that night, crashing at my buddy Jake's place. I didn't even bother calling my dad because, honestly, I didn't trust myself not to punch him if I heard his voice. The next day, I finally called him. I didn't want to, but I needed answers. He didn't even deny it. He said, "Look, I didn't plan for this to happen, but Sarah and we connected. Connected. Like, bro, this isn't a rom-com. You're my father." He even had the audacity to say, "I love her." Love her? What about loving your son? At this point, I'm just numb. I filed for divorce immediately because there's no coming back from this. Sarah keeps texting me saying she's sorry and that she wants to work things out for the baby. The baby that isn't even mine. And my dad? Oh, he's still seeing her. Apparently they're figuring things out together now. So, yeah, my wife's affair partner is my dad and she's carrying his child. My family is basically a dumpster fire now, and I'm just trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I've blocked them both because I can't deal with their crap anymore. I've been focusing on work, spending time with Max, and trying to rebuild. Reddit. How do you even move on from something like this? Do I just cut them out forever and pretend they don't exist? Or is there some way to come back from this level of betrayal? Honestly, I don't even know who I am anymore. TLDR, my wife cheated on me with my dad, and now she's pregnant with his child. My life is a soap opera, and I don't know how to deal. I don't even know how to start this, but here we go. I, 28F, am still fuming as I write this because what happened is straight up unforgivable. Like, this isn't a prank. This isn't family drama. This was malicious. For some context, I live in Chicago. I've been doing pretty well for myself. I have a good job, my own apartment, and I've worked really hard to build a life I'm proud of. But my family? Oh boy, they're complicated. And by complicated, I mean my older brother, Derek, 31M, has always had this weird thing about one-upping me. It's like he can't handle the fact that I've done well for myself or that people actually respect me. Anyway, let me set the scene. It was my mom's birthday dinner, so the whole family was together. Me, Derek, our parents, some cousins, and a few family friends. We went to this nice Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place where you dress up a little and they have fancy names for bread. I was actually excited because, for once, it felt like we could all just have a nice evening together. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. So we're all sitting at this big table, laughing, talking, and enjoying the food. The waiter came around to take drink orders, and I decided to be a little adventurous and try their signature cocktail. It had some fancy ingredients like elderflower and rosemary. You know, very Pinteresty. I only had one drink because I had work the next morning and wasn't trying to get tipsy. At first, everything seemed fine. The food was amazing, the conversation was flowing, and I was actually having a good time. Then Derek started doing his usual thing, throwing little jabs at me, stuff like, "Oh, big city girl ordering the fancy drinks, and don't forget where you came from, princess." I ignored him because, honestly, that's just Derek. He's always been the guy who gets a kick out of making people uncomfortable. About halfway through the night, I started feeling weird. Not drunk, just off. My head was spinning a little and my vision felt blurry. I remember thinking, this is weird. I've barely had anything to drink. But I shrugged it off, thinking maybe I was just tired or dehydrated. Then it got worse. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking, and I felt this overwhelming sense of panic. I tried to keep it together because we were in public, but my mom noticed something was wrong. She leaned over and asked, "Are you okay? You look pale." I tried to laugh it off, saying, "I think I just need some water." But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. At this point, Derek was sitting across from me, grinning like a damn Cheshire cat. I didn't think much of it at first because he's always smirking about something, but then he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, you okay? You're looking a little out of it. Maybe you shouldn't drink so much." I was mortified. Everyone at the table turned to look at me like I was some kind of lightweight who couldn't handle one cocktail. I stammered something about not feeling well and excused myself to the bathroom. When I got there, I splashed some cold water on my face and tried to calm down, but the feeling wouldn't go away. That's when it hit me. Something was wrong with my drink. Like, really wrong. I started piecing things together. The way Derek had been acting, that stupid grin on his face, and his weird comment about me drinking too much. Y'all, my brother spiked my drink at a family dinner to humiliate me. I went back to the table, furious but trying to play it cool. I whispered to my mom, "Something's wrong with my drink. I think Derek did something." She looked at me like I was crazy, saying, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. He's your brother." But I could tell she wasn't entirely convinced. The night dragged on, and I kept sipping water, hoping the feeling would pass. Derek, meanwhile, was having the time of his life, cracking jokes and making sure to point out how off I seemed to everyone at the table. He even said, "Hey, maybe someone should call her an Uber. Looks like she can't handle the big city life anymore." I was done. I stood up and said, "Derek, what the hell did you put in my drink?" The whole table went silent. My dad looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, and my mom was whispering, "Sit down, don't make a scene." But I wasn't backing down. Derek just leaned back in his chair, smirking like the asshole he is, and said, "Relax. It was just a little fun. You're fine." Fun? I could barely stand, and he thought it was funny. I grabbed my stuff and left. My mom followed me outside, begging me to come back, saying, "He didn't mean any harm. You know how he is." But I wasn't having it. I told her, "If you don't see how messed up this is, then I don't know what to tell you." The next day, I went to the doctor just to be safe, and they confirmed that whatever he spiked my drink with wasn't lethal, but could have been dangerous if I'd had more. I was furious. I called my dad and told him what happened, and he actually had the nerve to say, "You're overreacting. He's your brother." I haven't spoken to Derek since that night. He hasn't apologized, and honestly, I don't think he ever will. My parents keep brushing it off, saying it's just how he is, but I'm done with the excuses. Family or not, what he did was malicious, and I'm not going to let it slide. So, Reddit, am I overreacting? Should I cut him off completely, or am I being too dramatic? Because right now, I don't see how I could ever forgive him for this. TLDR, my brother spiked my drink at a family dinner to embarrass me, and my parents think I should just get over it because he's family. All right, y'all, I can't believe I'm even typing this out, but I need to get it off my chest. My life has basically turned into a soap opera, and I don't even know how to process it anymore. Buckle up, because this one's a doozy. So, for context, I 27F, live in Portland, Oregon. I've got my own little place, a steady job as a graphic designer, and honestly, I've worked hard to build a peaceful, independent life for myself. My family, on the other hand, let's just say they've always been a little dramatic, but nothing could have prepared me for this. I have an older sister, Lisa. Growing up, Lisa was the wild child, always partying, getting into trouble, dating questionable guys. You get the idea. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the good daughter who stayed out of trouble. It's been this dynamic our whole lives, and while it's not my favorite thing, I've learned to live with it. A few months ago, Lisa announced she was pregnant. None of us were surprised, honestly, but what did shock us was that she refused to say who the father was. She just kept brushing it off, saying, "It doesn't matter," or "I'll handle it." My parents, being the enablers they are, decided not to push her for details. They just said, "We're here for you," and left it at that. Fast forward to 2 months ago. Lisa's about 6 months pregnant at this point, and out of nowhere, she just disappears, like gone. No note, no explanation, nothing. My parents were hysterical, obviously. They called the police, filed a missing persons report, and even reached out to some of her old friends, but no one had any idea where she went. It was like she vanished into thin air. At first, I was just as worried as they were. I mean, she's my sister. But as the weeks went by, something started to feel off. My parents were acting strange, like way more intense than usual. Every time I'd call to check in or visit, they'd steer the conversation toward me. Stuff like, "You're doing so well for yourself, sweetie. You've got such a stable life." Or, "Have you ever thought about having kids?" I didn't think much of it at first. I figured they were just emotional and saying random stuff. But then one night, my mom sat me down and dropped the bombshell. She said, "We've been talking and we think you should adopt Lisa's baby." I literally laughed because I thought she was joking. But no, she was 100% serious. She kept going, saying, "You've always been so responsible, and this baby deserves a stable home. We know Lisa would want you to take care of her child." I just stared at her, completely stunned. I said, "Mom, Lisa is missing. We don't even know what's going on. Shouldn't we be focusing on finding her first?" But she brushed me off, saying, "Lisa will come back when she's ready. Right now, we need to think about the baby." Y'all, I was floored. I said, "I'm sorry, but no, I'm not adopting her baby. That's not my responsibility." And then came the guilt trip. She said, "Don't you care about your family? This baby is your blood. If you don't step up, who will? Do you want the child to end up in the foster system?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her, "There are other options. You and dad could adopt the baby if you're so concerned." But she immediately shut that down, saying they were too old to raise a child and that it wouldn't be fair to the baby. At this point, I was getting angry. I said, "Mom, I didn't choose this. I'm not the one who disappeared without a word. Lisa made her choices, and it's not my job to clean up her mess." She started crying, saying I was being selfish and that I didn't care about the family. My dad, of course, backed her up, saying, "You're young. You could give this baby a good life. Why are you being so heartless? Heartless. They called me heartless because I didn't want to upend my entire life for a baby that isn't mine. The conversation ended with me storming out, and honestly, I haven't been back since. They keep calling me, leaving voicemails about how I'm abandoning my family and how disappointed they are in me. I've tried to explain my side, but they won't hear it. To them, I'm the villain because I won't fix the situation Lisa created. And the worst part, they still have no idea where she is. Every time I bring it up, they just wave it off like she'll come back when she's ready. But what if she doesn't? What if she left because she didn't want to deal with this responsibility either? And even if she does come back, what happens then? Am I just supposed to hand over a child I didn't ask for in the first place? I'm at my wit's end, Reddit. I feel like I'm being punished for having my life together, while Lisa gets a free pass to screw up over and over again. Am I wrong for standing my ground? Should I just suck it up and do what they're asking? Or am I right to say no? Because right now, I don't see a world where this ends without my family completely hating me. TLDR, my sister disappeared while 6 months pregnant, and now my parents are trying to force me to adopt her baby. When I said no, they called me selfish and heartless. I don't know what to do.